Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first virtual meetup of VueJS Athens. Yeah, COVID-19 changed our plan and forced us to the online events. I'm Sergio. I'm one of the co-organizers of the VueJS Athens, and we are really excited to see so many people join us tonight. VueJS Athens starting less than 2 years ago with a small group of people having a goal to create a self-driven community that shares knowledge about Vue. And since then, it has grown, has exceeded the number of 500 members. And this is all about you guys. This is all about you. We couldn't have done it without you. And thank you so much for making it happen. Special thanks to our speakers, Daniel and Samuel, for volunteering, to our designer, Savas Vumelis, for putting up so much effort in creating all of our graphic designs. Lastly, big thanks to our sponsors for providing with virtual pizza and soft drinks. But just kidding, we don't have any sponsors for today. So feel free to use the live chat in order to reach out other attendees, organizers, or ask any questions of the Q&A sessions. We kindly ask you to be respectful and please guard your privacy. Also, please note that this event will be recorded and uploaded in later time. So, this event will start with a speech about different ways of using state with Composition API. And later on, we will see how to build fast and deploy projects using Next.js, Headless CMS, Jamstack. We hope you enjoy the program and take the knowledge you learn here tonight and use it to better your lives and careers. So now I have the honor to introduce to you our very first speaker, Daniel Rowe. Daniel.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be with you all tonight. I'm dialing in from Durham, England, in the northeast. It's been a beautiful autumn day, although I can tell you the weather here will probably never ever be as nice as it is in Athens. My name is Daniel, as Sergio said. I head up tech at a company called Parent Scheme, which aims to help working parents, which is an admirable goal at the best of times, but particularly in the midst of the pandemic, we've really found that what we've been doing has been really crucial for us and for our clients. I do hope, as we think about Global Store, that you'll be jotting down questions and we'll be firing them through to me, because I'd love to go into more detail on any of the areas I'm talking about. The reason I care about Global Store and making sure it's solid and secure is probably, I hope it's true of you as well. The key first reason for me is that I can't entirely be trusted. When I write code, even on my best day, I might not remember what I've written 2 days before, or a week, or a year. And the longer I'm working with a single code base, the more true it is that we might have switched APIs. We might have implemented one kind of function in one place. We might have even given it a similar name to another function, and I can't hold all of that into my head. And that means, from my point of view, that I care a great deal about type safety. So that's not just about the editor autocomplete, which I do dearly love, the idea that my editor can actually give me some kind of useful information as I'm typing and give me instant feedback, but also the idea that my app won't even build if I haven't taken the time to make sure everything works. So type safety is important. And then I guess this is a personal preference, but I think probably many people will share it too. A boilerplate is a pain. So it's possible to come up with incredibly verbose type definitions, entire files full of possible declarations to help make your code a bit sounder. But if it takes a lot of time, if it takes my time away from building the app, I just, well, it's not something I really have time for. So that's my sort of starting point. So thinking then about global state, it's not just about managing the state within your application. So as a bit of a preface or a footnote, it's worth saying that equally important is making sure that the data that comes in is as it were, type safe. Whether that's data coming in from a first-party API or a third-party API, in other words, something that you control or something that you don't, or whether it's data that's coming in from user input. I guess that's the kind of thing we'd naturally want to validate. We'd probably want to make sure that if someone is typing their age into a field, that they're only typing numbers. But I'd say the same is true of a third-party API. So just because when I wrote my application, the API I'm using for, say, my email campaign, my marketing campaign server returns one kind of object, I can't take that for granted that it's not going to change. I mean, obviously, if they've written it well, then it won't change. It will be well versioned. But you can't always take that for granted. And actually, that's true even more so when it's a first-party API, when it's something you control or another developer on your team controls. Because often we can cut corners even when we don't mean to. We can make a change because we think nobody's used it so far, or we might not even spot that it's a big deal. So all this kind of complex data, it's worth saying we should probably seek to bring some type safety to that as well. And there are a number of solutions, but one of the most promising is called IOTS. Now, you might think that it works just as well to type the data you receive. And this is certainly what everyone starting out with TypeScript will do. You'll describe the API response you're expecting to get, and you can use it in your code and consume it, and you'll get your type inference, you'll get your editor autocomplete, and you can even make sure that those types flow all the way throughout your application. So the functions that consume, say this, in this case, it's probably a user object. The function that consumes that user object is going to be not going to be referencing properties of that object that don't exist. But the problem with it is you can't actually guarantee that that's all true. So maybe there isn't an age property. Maybe you actually end up getting some kind of tags or interests, an array of strings that the user is interested in. And so that's where IOTS comes in. IOTS is an open source library. It's runtime. So it involves runtime type checking, unlike TypeScript, of course, which is only at build time and compiles away all of its type definitions to JavaScript. IOTS actually enables you to build an interface, which I often think of, I call in my code a validator, so as not to confuse it with TypeScript interfaces. And you can build something as straightforward as this. My API response validator is going to be be a type, and then you import some special objects from IOTS itself, and you say the name is going to be a string, the email is going to be a string, the age is going to be a number. And from that, you can generate a type, which you can consume throughout your TypeScript code, and you can export that to the rest of your code. And then you can actually use the validator you've created to validate the type you've received. So you can actually then know for certain that what you've got matches. And so you're not getting any bad data coming in. Obviously, how you handle it if you do receive bad data is obviously a question. You probably don't just want to throw an error, but you might have a number of other choices. So I think validating data coming in is pretty important. And there are other options too, of course. So there's a JSON schema. You can use a an open API is a way of constructing type-safe APIs. GraphQL offers type safety as well. It's strongly typed by default. And even other query languages. A favorite of mine is called Grok, which the Sanity CMS uses. There are ways of making that type safe. And the same could be said for any number of other query languages. Making sure that the data that comes into your application is strongly typed, ideally at runtime, is a great first step. So that's really by way of preface. But coming then to the global store and dealing with typed data within an application. Often I would describe global store as being opaque, hard to refactor, and requiring boilerplate. Because solutions like Vuex, which are fantastic, by the way, and one of my proposed solutions will involve Vuex. So I'm an advocate, not an opponent. But often it gets a bit frustrating if you have a typed application. Your functions tell you what kind of objects they expect to be passed into them, but then you find yourself referencing this store state, and it's typed as any. That's not that helpful, and everything you get back from it ends up being not being typed. Or you can implement some kind of verbose boilerplate where every time you use the store, you add an additional type, and that can help you a bit. It can help you as far as coming down to the state, definitely. By the time you get to actions and mutations and getters, it is insanely difficult to use. Now that will become a little bit better with the release of Vuex 4, because there won't be a default type definition for this $store, and you'll be able to provide your own. So that things are getting a little bit better, but I think there's still some way to go. The classic Vuex model can be typed a little bit. So this is what it might look like. You could define what your state, what the shape of your state is. You could define, your getters consuming that state. But things get a little bit more complicated when they come to your actions, for example, or your mutations. You now need to refer to magic strings for the names of your mutations and for other actions that you want to dispatch. And as for what those names are, or the objects and payloads that they take, those are completely untyped again. And unless you're prepared to put quite a lot of effort into maintaining sort of injecting extra type definitions in the right place, it is a real pain, as far as I'm saying. The action tree, by the way, is the Vuex provided type for actions. Oh, and if you're curious as to the syntax I'm using for defining my store, where I simply export consts of state, actions, mutations, and so on. That's the next typical pattern. You might do it in a different way, but everything that everything that I'm saying here about the store should ring true for a classic Vue application as well. So there are a couple of ways of approaching global state to come up with something that's strongly typed. So in other words, it has a type defined at source, and that type then flows throughout your application. So wherever you consume that object or that bit of data, you know what it is that you're dealing with, and you can't assign anything to it unless it's the right type. So you have this sort of internal consistency. And of course, if you can then combine that with validating user input and API input, then you have an application that is considerably more solid and resilient compared to an application that doesn't have that kind of validation. So the new Vue reactivity, and there are lots and lots of ways of hooking into this Vue reactivity. So here are 4. Three of them you can use right now. So if you're using the Composition API plugin, whether that's the Next integration for the Composition API plugin, which obviously I advocate because I maintain that, or whether it's the Vue integration for the Composition API plugin, you can just access some of the new objects that you may have, the new methods you may have been using, you may have heard about, like ref, computed, watch, and so on, which are basically programmatic methods to invoke the behavior that normally you would expect to benefit from when you're defining a component with computed or watch objects. You can also access Vue reactivity, pure Vue reactivity in Vue 2 without installing the Composition API plugin at all. And that is just by using Vue.observable, which allows you to create a reactive object. And if you use that object in your components in your application and make changes to it from other ones, it triggers re-renders. So it's you might find it's just as good. In fact, if you don't want to use more of the Composition API but are just looking for some kind of shared state, just use Vue Observable. You already have it available in your application. So whichever method you use, whether you use one of the Vue 2 methods or you just import ref from Vue with Vue 3, everything that I'm saying about the new Vue reactivity applies. So the key benefits from my point of view, the key reasons you might want to use this as opposed to Vuex, doing something with Vuex, is if you have a relatively simple state. I don't mean across your whole application, but the particular use case you're thinking of for a module is relatively simple. So maybe you have some user interface thing you want to keep track of is a menu open or closed. Or it might be that you actually even have something a little bit more complicated in terms of an array of user bookmarks or favorites or something else like that. But it doesn't need to be inspected by the dev tools. I mean, obviously you can see it if you attach it to a component instance, but it doesn't have a separate tab, and Vuex is pretty nice for that. And you don't have any kind of need to replay or track changes in the same kind of itemized way that Vuex allows. Then this might actually be a great solution for you. This is the kind of thing that you can end up doing with that. So you can define your, I've put everything in here. So imagine you want to validate the response from an API and then assign it to a global store and access that more broadly. So just to talk you through what I've got on my screen, we'll pull in some stuff from IOTS to validate the data we're receiving. And then we're going to use two methods from the Composition API called ref and computed. Ref establishes a reactive thing. It can be pretty much anything, string all the way through to an array or not object. And a computed is a way of coming up with a reactive computed value that triggers updates in any component referencing or using that. So we'll create a user validator first, which is the runtime type checker for us, for a user. And we'll export the user type in case any other component in our application wants to consume it. We're going to put our state, the thing that you might think it's your state from Vuex. We'll just say export const users. It's going to be a ref. We'll start it out as an empty array, but we'll tell it via TypeScript that it's going to be filled with users. We can have a getter, just like in normal Vuex. We'll just do that with a computed. Computeds are great, by the way, just like everywhere else in Vue. They aren't triggered until they're used. So it doesn't have a massive overhead to create computed properties because they are triggered when they're used, and then of course they're cached. So it's a great way of accessing data. But you never really need a getter just to return state. There's no benefit to doing that, whether in Vuex or in the Composition API. So we'll just use it in this case to find the first user that exists in that users array, or it will return undefined if there isn't one. And then here's a typical action. So fully typed in this case, it's a fetch users action. So it's going to get a response from the user's endpoint. If that response is an array of users, if it's not an array of users, we'll throw an error and leave it to the rest of our code to handle that error. Otherwise, we'll assign the response to our users. Isn't that rather beautiful, after all. So we've got everything that you would expect from a store. Your state, your getters, your action. It's strongly typed, runtime typed, and it's really easy to consume that data. So in a component, look how short and simple it can be. So this component, if there's a first user, then it's going to display that first user's name. And all we have to do is import the getter and the method from our homegrown store here, our modules, my store, and then expose that to our template. So in the setup function, we can just return it, return first user and fetch users. Actually, you probably don't need even to expose fetch users to the template, just first user. And we can tell the component that before it mounts, it trigger the fetching of the users. It's really simple from my point of view. It's pretty clear what it does. It's really easy to reason about. You don't have to access anything off your injected in your Vue prototype. Anyway, I think it's a pretty clear, simple way of referring to things. And it also allows you to do things like abstract away boilerplate. So here's a slightly more complicated example from a project I've been working on recently, although I should say I've dropped most of the features of the project I've been working on in order to fit it on the screen. But this is an example of a repository creator that you might want to create. So rather than needing to, so what does it do? We use the feature of the new composition API called a custom ref, which lets us control the behavior of how this reactive object works. So what we do is we create an empty array, in this case, when you call the create repository method. And then we define a function to fill that empty array with an initializer function, which also gets passed to our create repository function. And then we return a custom ref. So the custom ref will simply allow the end user to take out take away this reactive object. And then the first time that custom object is used, it will trigger the initialization function to actually call that remote API, which means we don't need to somewhere in our app fetch users. We can actually just create a repository and let our app decide. So if the component that consumes that user's object isn't loaded, we don't need to fetch the users at all. And we can save that processing power and bandwidth on the end user's computer. That's an example. Now, turning to the next screen, could I just check that that people can see my screen? Turning to the next method. So we don't just need the composition API. There are other ways, of course, of creating a type-safe global store. And the next way of doing so is to use a tool which is a pet project of mine called Typed Vuex. Typed Vuex basically harnesses type inference to build a strongly typed accessor to Vuex. So it allows you to define your store and then basically consumes that and calculates out the type of the accessor that's required. Sergio, can you do some magic for us and get my screen back on? Sergio is telling me it's my fault, actually. And I believe he is right. So if everyone just wait 1 second, and hopefully very, very soon we will have a How about that? Magic. Okay, so here's something we'll come back to the typed Vuex in just a moment, but I just can't get over the fact that it is incredibly simple and incredibly powerful to use the composition API. So you can create lots of helper functions that make it clearer what you're doing. So for example, this is an example also from a recent project, also simplified considerably, that run when authenticated. That basically takes in a callback, and it won't run that callback until there is a user object instantiated. So if you're used to trying to build in elaborate custom middlewares to then make sure that certain code is only displayed when or run once you are logged in, this is about 10 lines of code that does that automatically for you. It's really lovely to work with as a developer. But back to typed Vuex. So the idea of typing the store is something that is really attractive. And I'd say probably, if I'm anything to go by, anyone who starts out looking to make a project more type safe probably immediately goes to try and type the store as much as possible. But of course, the kind of objects that you get back, if you use the built-in getter tree, mutation tree, action tree interfaces exported by Vuex, as distinct from the methods that you see on the screen exported from typed Vuex, you end up with an object that has no useful properties that you can, no useful type properties that you can take advantage of. It's all generic. It's just a record. But we want to know things like, what's the name of that mutation? What are the different properties that exist on the state? What are the specific payload values of an action? And so typed Vuex exposes some methods that do nothing from a code point of view, but return the object that's passed into them. So when your application is compiled, these the methods you see on the screen disappear. They just become no-op methods that return back the same object that's passed out. But the benefit is at build time, we can actually use the data we get from that, from the power of type inference to give us really useful data. So this is a fully typed store using vanilla Vuex. This is what it looks like. We pull in our helper methods, and we do need to do some work. So we, in this case, rather than build out the validator, which I completely would do in a real project, I've just typed out an interface for my user. Our state is, well, I don't want it to be an array of never, so I've given it the user type. And by the way, I highly recommend using a state factory, a function rather than an object. It really helps if you're ever doing any kind of server rendering. It massively solves a lot of problems in terms of shared state between requests. You really don't want to go down that line. We've defined our getters. So we have this is, by the way, fully typed. So if you were to start typing in the edit in your IDE, you type state dot, and it would be you'd find a list of all the properties of state as well as all of their types. The same is true for mutations. So again, that state object is typed. You provide the type for your for the payload, the thing that you're committing, and then your actions likewise. You pass everything in. It's a little bit additive, so the actions need the state, the getters, and the mutations. And magically, everything is typed for you, even the strings that the commit takes. You can only type set users in. You can't type any other kind of string. It will complain. And if you do type set users, it will require that you pass in an array of users. It won't accept anything else. It won't accept any other object that you do. And the same is true if you have other mutations. Based on the name of the mutation you type, the TypeScript will complain if you don't pass in the right kind of payload. That was really a game changer for me personally. But it means that you can actually build out stores that are type safe without you needing to manually add the types for everything. In this case, you don't have to type the commit method. You don't have to specify the type that you're passing through to it. You don't have to type out the state for every mutation or for every getter. It just does it for you, which means that in this case, if I were to accidentally delete users from my state, TypeScript would begin to squawk at me. Every other part of this object, the mutations, the actions, the getters, they would all start failing. Red lines would start appearing, and I would know I had made a mistake. But it's not just about building better stores, more typed stores. You can also make use of this throughout your application through means of an accessor. So this is all the boilerplate that you need. So having defined your store, which you can see in those 4 lines, const state, const getters, const mutations, const actions, we can then produce an object, which I call accessor type, which is again an empty object. It's all it doesn't take any time to run in production. It's just for the benefit of build time, just for the benefit of TypeScript. It gives you a fully typed accessor type. And then with the a TypeScript definition on the right, you then have access throughout all of your app to this $accessor. I haven't put how you define that because it's a little bit different in Nuxt and Vue, but it's just a one-line thing to add in. And then you can access, so to take the example from the previous page of this particular store, you could type this $accessor .users, and what you'd get back is a typed array of users. You could type this $accessor fetch users, and again, it would be fully typed for you. And the same is true of mutations and getters. So it basically means that all the way through the app, you're able to use typed store definitions. And the same is true, by the way, within your actions. You can reference the accessor, this.app.accessor or this.accessor, and actually use the typed accessor to refer to your other modules or your root state if you happen to be using submodules. It basically takes away a lot of the boilerplate and I think makes life a lot easier. Here's how you might end up using it. This is the classic options API. So you've got a component that references your state, a method. In this case, it's probably it could be a mutation or an action. Really, it doesn't matter. And a submodule property. This is what type Vuex exists to make easier. So there you go. I hope I haven't taken too much of your time, but those are 2 different methods for creating bulletproof global state, type-safe global state in Vue 2 and in Vue 3. What's next? Well, there are exciting things coming up. Vuex 4, as I've already alluded to, is bringing some improved type safety. Although, to be fair, there's still going to be a ways to go. And I foresee that typed Vuex project still being needed, at least for my purposes, for some time to come. That's probably not going to be true for Vuex 5, by the way, because the built into Vuex is going to be a fully typed core that allows you to create state that you can use throughout your application in a type-safe way. More immediately, TypeScript 4.1 allows, at last, library authors to create type definitions that include string arithmetic. So for example, one of the reasons why typed Vuex has to use an accessor rather than simply typing the store is that magic strings like with namespaced modules were previously impossible. So we couldn't do a submodule / my action. We couldn't do dispatch submodule / my action. Now, we couldn't do that with commit either. We will be able to do so very soon. And the next version of typed UX is actually going to have a no accessor option, where it simply augments the type definitions of your store. So you don't have to even have the extremely minimal addition of an accessor to your Vue or Next project. So exciting times for me, at least. Well, I've been going for a while. I'd be really happy to answer any questions at all that anyone might have. It's also true that if you do have a question, but you don't fancy raising it right now, you're more than welcome to look me up and drop me an email, which you can find on my website there, or drop me a Twitter DM. My DMs are always open, and I'm always happy to help. If there is anything I can do that would be useful to somebody, or if I can put you in the right direction, I'm really very happy to take the time.
Amazing talk. Wow, amazing. You present us interesting patterns. I'm gonna use some of this. That's for sure. Thank you so much, Daniel.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Now, we're moving to the next topic with an interesting young man, Samuel Snopko, an interesting web developer who is from Austria. He will talk us about building fast and deploying using Next.js with headless CMS or Jamstack.
Hi. Hi, everybody. So at first, I need to share my screen. Give me a second. Okay. So, Sergio? Yeah, nice. Cool. So one more time. Hi, everybody. I'm really happy to be here. And as Sergio said, I'm Samuel, and I'm going to talk about the headless CMS or Jamstack, and basically going fast and furious with Next.js. We are going to code together, or I will be showing how to set up a project with Next.js under 30 minutes, which will be already ready to be deployed, kind of. And also I will be showing a very simple website, or I would say a simple blog post portfolio with featured articles on the homepage. If you have any questions, you can ask me always on the Twitter. It's my Twitter name is the same as my name, so you can see it here down, Samuel Snopko. As Daniel also mentioned, my DMs are also always open, so feel free to ask any questions. So first of all, a little bit about me. This is me, and if you don't see me, okay, on the left side there's a big picture of me. I love stickers, and I visited kind of a lot of conferences. I love to speak about technical stuff, and some time ago I found VueJS and Next.js, and then I became kind of an ambassador of those technologies. This was like 3 years ago, and the story goes on. I should say that I'm the Next.js developer more as a VueJS developer, because usually I started using Next.js basically 2 weeks after I discovered VueJS. Then I was looking for the headless solution, because I was building a lot of different websites. I was thinking about myself as front-end night or design ops front-end night, because I'm a huge fan of the Star Wars, of course. And at the end, I wasn't happy with any of the solutions out there. Till I did found a Storyblock, which I started to also talk about on different meetups across Europe. I did something kind of a road trip, personal one through Germany, but it was really fun. But at the end, this year, I joined the Storyblock team, and I'm right now a developer, DevRel or head of the DevRel since Storyblock. So my talk is kind of course, then a little bit biased. I will be talking about a Storyblock because I really like the technology, especially the combination and together with the Next.js. The next thing is that I'm also not going to show a lot of slides. I love to show a live coding. So that's why we will be jumping to the code, and we will be basically explaining how to start your project from the scratch. And if I mean scratch, then we are going to code really from scratch. So first of all, I'm always using the create Next app. So, and I'm using the Yarn. So what you will be typing is basically Yarn create Next app and the name of the project, which in my case will be Blazingly Fast Showcase. This I will do a really quick setup to show you what you need to do, and this is taking some time. Interesting. Live coding is always a lot of surprises. So one more time. Okay, so probably I will have to just tell you what I'm going to set up. So what you need to set up is just a server-side rendering. Then you will be setting, of course, the no modules. We are not going to set any linting, and maybe it will get, just my connection is a little bit slower. Yeah, okay, so great. So right now it's going to work. So the project name, just leave it. I'm going to use JavaScript. I'm using Yarn. Then from the UI framework, I'm now a fan of the Tailwind CSS, even I wasn't on the beginning. So if you have any questions about this and why I choose Tailwind CSS, just ask me after that. You don't need any modules at the beginning. It's up to you then later what you need to have. So I'm not going to choose anything. I really encourage you to use the lintners and the styling. But for the presentation, really it makes no sense. It will make it everything a little bit more complicated. I'm going to not test my project because why? Of course, we are I'm going for universal application or server-side generation of server-side rendering. And as Jamstack hosting, this is usually like Vercel or Netlify or any other servers or like solutions out there which you can use. So static, I'm using VS Code, which you will see in a few seconds. And then basically, yeah, this is my GitHub name. It's correct, and we are going to Git. So, and this will be installing our project, and we will basically end here. So, as you can see, my project is set up. So I have some folders with components, plugins, static, store, etc. If you are familiar with the Next.js, this should be basically something you should get. And then I have two files here, which are just for this talk. So don't look at that. First of all, let's test the project if it's working everything correctly. So let's start the development mode, and let's check the local host if everything looks good. Don't check the icon here. This is just wrong because that should be a Next.js line, but I'm experimenting also with Next.js, so you see here. But as you can see, the welcome screen is working. So we have like going ahead lots with Next, and this is the welcome from Nuxt. So what next? The next would be like, okay, we just set up the Next.js, but the question is like how to connect it with headless CMS and deliver our Jamstack application or website or whatever we are building with the headless CMS out there. And for that, I'm going for story block, and this looks like this. You just go for login, and as I'm already logged in, then I basically jump here, and I have the first a dashboard or board screen where I see all my projects, and I'm just going to really create a new project from scratch. So, and I'm going to call it Blazingly Fast Showcase. And I'm going to create it. So in a few seconds, we just created a new project, or as we call it, space. As I'm the advanced user, I'm going to skip the next steps, and I'm going to not go through them. And I'm going to just explain what we see here to get a little bit orientation. So basically, this is the content. So we are in the context section, and already a first story or first content type or a page is created for us. And this holds a content. So if I open it, I can see here that this is something like a preview mode, which is not set up right now. And on the right side, it's created content. So in this case, the story block is component based. So it's like an approach. So this is very similar and coming from the idea of the atomic design that every content is built as a component. So as you can see here, I have already teaser, and then I have a grid, and in this grid I have multiple features. And I can open feature and I can edit already the stuff here. So I can like feature 1 and I can go back or I can copy paste it, I can reorder it, I can save it. So basically this is what you get by default by any of those. Headless CMS is out there, and then you can like already use it. So I can add here more stuff. Then if I go and I can just check what JSON and basically how my content will look like and what will there with the API. But this is like very simple stuff, and this is like just created. And if you want to focus basically on the components and the creation of the content, and as the preview is not working for now, then we could do it like this. So this is like the first step. I just wanted to say that we already created some default content, and this is like teaser grid with 3 features. But we don't see any preview of that. So and why is that? Is because we didn't connect those 2 technologies. So we just set up the space in Storyblock, and then we have our Next.js project. And now we need to connect them. And how to connect them? It's very easy. We created in Storyblock for that a module, which is called Storyblock Next. And this all you need to do is basically just go for yarn add a Storyblock Next module, which will be added like this. Then you jump to the next config and scroll down to the modules. As I'm going to really do a lot of cheating here, so I'm not going to type all of that source code. I'm going to present. Here is a lot of commented, already pre-commented stuff. So in the modules, I just integrate or like set up the normal module, Next.js module, which is Storyblock Next, and I need to get my access token, and then I can set some other options here. For now, just keep it very simple. So we would like need to add here our access token from our space. So let's go back to our space and go to the 2 options. First one is, as you can see here in the preview, is basically saying like you need to use this access token to access your content, but this is like the access token for a draft content. So if I would go back, I usually using the API keys from the settings, and in the API keys here, I can set up like, okay, this is my preview token. But if I would like to have a public token, like this is a production content, then I can create a new content that I would be using for the production, which would be like Netlify or Vercel. But for now, I just go for this preview token. So let's go back. Add it here in the next config.js, which is kind of bad, and you shouldn't do that. You should use a .env environment file for that here, and just use basically the token here, and then load it in your next config, and also in the platform where you are deploying your static website, and you should also like create your token there. And this way, it's much more secure as usual. So, but for now, we don't need to do that. This is like I will delete that space like in a few minutes. So let's keep it this way, which is much easier. Let's test if everything is working. And basically, what would be the change right now if I would open the local host? So as you can see, everything is bundling together, and everything is working. And why I know everything is working? Because we don't see any errors. So, but this is still the same screen. And also, when I go to the application, the Storyblock, and I open the home story, which is representing on my index page, I still don't see any preview there. So let's first fix here that we see the welcome screen from the Next.js in this area. And as you can see here in the left side, or like in top bar, there is like saying like here should be our server address. And in this moment, our local host is running on the our website is running on the local host. So let's copy the local host and use that. So and go back to settings, and in general, we can override the default location of the preview. Or I can add more of them. Like if I would go for production, so prod, and here would be like something like HTTPS, Netlify, or Vercel, or whatever I'm going to deploy it. And I can create a multiple of those. So that's not, okay, I have to like, so def, and let's do it location. So save it, go to content. And now, if I open it, I should see a difference. And the difference is that I see a Next.js error, which is okay, because that means that I connected the Storyblock with the Next.js. So in the Storyblocks application, I see the preview of my local host, but this is an error because it's saying like I wanted to reach or like access the home, but I didn't create a home. So in my router or like pages, there is no home.view. So the Next.js doesn't know anything about the home page. So we have to like write our router in the Next.js, or as we already did like quick fix for this, we can go to config of any pages we need and just override the real path in the preview. Because this home is basically the Slack that we will be using to get the data. So if we are going to encode, then we can ask like, give me the content from the Slack. But in the in this real-time visual editor, like we know that this should be shown on the real path / so empty basically. So after save, ta-da, I am going to see my welcome screen. That's great. So it's like progress. We already see the Next.js here inside the story block. So basically, we will be not needing anymore the localhost here because we will be using this one. So there's like still something not correct, because we can write here like hello Athens. Hopefully, I will write correct Athens. But I can save it. I can even publish it, but I don't see that here. And this is like a big issue. Like how it should work that I see is there. And the easy thing is like if I show you the JSON that we will be getting, is basically that we have a content here. Where is that? Here. And the content, if you can see, is component type page, which we define. This is not predefined by the story block. This is defined by me as a user or you as a user. And then I define that page has also body, and this body consists basically from a list of other components. And as you can see here, then here is the component teaser with the content headline, hello Athens. And this can work on multiple levels. So what exactly I'm talking about is that we have some components defined in the story block. So here in the component sections, you can see all the components that are currently at this moment defined. One of these components is a content type and is representing basically the story. So this could be like page, a landing page, article page, contact page. You know, all those types, you need to have a different layout and different stuff. And then we have another next table components, which we internally call also the blocks. And those are, in this case, feature, grid, and teasers. And these next table blocks, which also is then the story block, the name story and block, together story block. So these next table blocks can be used in other components. And this is like never-ending nesting that you can go for deep nesting. And if you think about it, this is how the atomic design kind of works, and also like how the modern frameworks like VueJS, Next.js, Nuke.js, React, all are working, that you are building a component, and then you combine those components into the like bigger components, and then using all those like ifs and conditions, you just get render a correct stuff. So here I have a feature which basically have only one field defined, and this field is the type text. And this is the same thing as like in grid type. In the grid, there is a columns, and this is type of the blocks. So I can use here a different blocks. And if I would like to say like, okay, I would like to use only features, I can white label always the blocks that can be used inside. And there's other more like schema and basically a configuration that will make really like a bulletproof application for your users, that they cannot like create something that your Next.js or applications can't handle. So let's save this and basically show also the page, which have a field type body where you can like add different blocks. So basically feature, grid, or teaser. And then I have a teaser, which also like contains only one field type headline with type text. So Storyblock is ready. Storyblock even could deliver data, but our Next.js application don't mirror those components because we didn't create them in the Next.js. And we need to create them in the Next.js. So let's do that very quickly. And as you can guess, I already like a little bit cheated and I have them. So what we are going to do is here, it's just like explain. So first of all, I created those components, which are like feature. So very easy template, which is consists from one div and will render my name. So, and the content to this feature I will be getting through the prop called block, which is type object. And I am like sending through the waterfall all the content from the page level to the like deepest component I need, or block. So I would expect here that my block contain the name. Then very similar thing goes for teaser, which basically renders the blog headline in the div with little bit styling from the from tail end. This should be semantically used some paragraph or maybe h2, but whatever. Okay, I use div. It's a little bit comish. Strange. Then I have a grid, which do nothing else, just render a list under the list of li elements. And here I'm going to dynamically use a component, which is like dynamic component from the VueJS itself. And here it's like deciding if it should be used, like what kind of component. And this is decide according to the JSON we are getting. So if I send here the block, this block contains a block.component. And here we will decide if it should be rendered like the feature or the teaser. So if I go to the content I explained here, you can see in the draft JSON that very easily. So this is my draft JSON. And then let's see here. As you can see here, this is the block basically. And where is the UID? Then here's the headline. And also here is saying like, okay, the component type is teaser. So I know that if I get here block.component, and this is the equal the teaser, then I will render here the teaser. And then I will send the whole block, just the content to the component and render and do whatever I do with that. So this is the grid. And the page is the same approach. So if you see here, I'm just like looping through my body. So here, and then deciding what kind of component I need to render. And then I am going to render that component. This is a very quick explanation how it works. And I will create one component also for you. That will be much more clearer. So what we need to do now is to open the component.js the old way and just register our components. So we created 4 components, page, teaser, grid, and feature, and we're going to register them in the view. Also, I'm going to jump to the next config. And in the next config, I'm going to allow this plugin or like load this commands.js plugin. It's up here. Save it. We should see the bundling of the Next.js. Basically, it's building. Take a little bit. And right now, if I go back to the application, the question is if we see a change. And we don't see a change. And the reason why we don't see the change is because we didn't load any data from the story block. We connected the Next.js and story block, but we didn't load the data. And that's happening right now in the index.js. And in the different application, it could be like extracted to a self-hosted function. But for here, for the talk, I just keep it directly in the index.js. So at first, we will remove the old code of the Next.js, the welcome screen. So as you can see, this is the old Next.js, and I just remove it. Then I just prepare my own section here, which will be like basically deciding what kind of type of the page, the content that I'm going to render. In this case, we are always rendering the page. So this will be basically component, and here we will get the page as a type. And we know that we should render this page.view. Then I don't need to use a logo from the Next.js anymore. Then I have some loading data, which looks maybe a little bit complex, but it's not. And as I am using a Tailwind, I can remove basically all styling here. So I can save it. And now a little bit explanation of what's happening in the script. So in the script, I just set up my empty data, which I am expecting that my data will look like a story, which will have a content. And right now it's empty. Then there will be like some mounted event, which I will get them to do in a few seconds. And then I'm going to load the data using the async data. So you will use the async context, which is the old way. You can use also like the new fetch on the component level, or you can use also like fetch here in the pages. And there could be like I think like at least one more way to go. I will use the old fetch in a few seconds. So what we are going to do, as we install the Storyblock next module, we also like already add a Storyblock API kind of like, and we can get then, we have a getter then. So in async data, we're just going to ask for our homepage, which in this case is we are asking only for the homepage, so home story. And the home story is exactly this content I showed you. So this is this one, as it is the home is the Slack. But in the real world, you will do like, okay, I need to find out according to the context, what is my route and path. And according to that, I will like ask for a different stories. because I could have a different folders, and then if I'm asking for a blog slash article 1, then I know that I should ask for story slash blog slash article 1. It's pretty simple. And then also the version, because as you could see, you can publish the content, but you can also save it. So you also always have a draft version and this published version. In this tutorial or like talk, I am using only the draft version. But usually you could like decide this like in the environment variables that you can use it then in the Netlify that you will be always using only published content. Cool. And if you are starting local development mode, then you always want to have only the draft content. So easy. Then we will basically return the data, and the data will basically replace this data with the story.content and real content. So if it's everything working and I save it and server is running, then we should see some changes. And finally, we see and render some data here. As you can see now, I have like few features here. Then I can click on different features here on the preview, and I can go like hello Athens and change it back to the hello world. So the first thing, what is happening here is that I save it, and then it reloads, and I see my content. And this is kind of cool. And this is why I did here this mounted event, where I am listening using the Storyblock bridge, which was also like installed by the Storyblock Nice module for the publish and change event in our editor. And if the editor like trigger this event, then we ask Next.js basically, or force the Next.js to reload the page inside the editor. And this is cool. But as we are using the VueJS, sorry, I have to turn this off next time. As we are using the VueJS and Next.js, which is also a modern framework, we have even better stuff. We can do it even better. And this is like use the input event. So our Storyblock bridge has also the input event. And if we do a quickly check that if the story that we are currently editing is the story that we are also previewing, we will basically replace the content, so this data, with the content from the event we are sending. So we are sending the whole JSON into event. And thanks to this, you can achieve the real-time visual editor. So right now I can go here and I should reload it, and now it should work. So if I go for Athens, you see as I like in the live time, like in the real time, it's editing. So I can go back, and then I can also reorder, or I can duplicate it, and I can see like hello world, hello Athens, and do a different stuff. Then I can save it, and my editor can preview it. And this is like cool because like this real-time editor makes one feature super useful, and that is like if you have a history like here, if you have to hit always the save button, you will like pollute this history, and it will be like a lot of small saves. But if you can do like, okay, I just want to experiment with this, so I will use teaser here, then I preview it, it's look everything good, so and then I can save it. That's the thing you want to have, like all of the editors and writers. And yeah, so that is, but I promise you something better. Oh, one more thing. As you can see this outline and clicking, and just quickly how this works is basically that you could see in our features this V editable, which is also installed by the module, the Storyblock Next.js, and then you can use it and basically send here the V editable, which is like the whole component. And in the component, then you can see some UID and some editable stuff, and this is delivered only in the draft content, not in published. So, and using this, we can identify and like connect basically the application of Storyblock with the Next.js application in this case. So cool. But let's create something like some articles, because I promised to create a blog or like personal blog post, article, something website. I don't know anytime how to call it. So what we need to do is just create a new content type because we would like to write the article. So let's create a new article. So I just jump to the component. I go to articles. Hopefully I'm not too fast. And I'm going to create a content type named article. I'm going to save it. And I am going to edit a few fields. And those fields are, I prepared myself. So a little bit cheating and looking on the different screen. It's title. Then I'm going to use an intro. Then I'm going to add also at least one author, and some prose, where we write the content. to keep it simple, it will be only one. Normally, I would make it a little bit more complicated. So about the title, I'm happy that it's text. Yeah, there's nothing to do with that. The intro, I would go for a longer text, and I'm not going to set up anything, any other stuff there. Then the author, I would like to choose a one from a single option. And as I don't have any like stories of authors created, like authors in different folders, and also external JSONs, I am just going to create them here. So the first one is me, and let's say the second one will be Dominic. So let's save it. And the pros should be like text, so Markdown, or I like the rich text editor. So we go for rich text because you can add own classes and stuff like that. So that's I think it's cool. So I have an article, and right now I didn't create anything in Next, so I don't have articles in the Next.js. But the cool thing about this is like I can say to my writers and editors, hey guys, I prepare a component for you or content type, and you can create already the articles. So don't be blocked by me that I will be doing design. I will be like coding my Next.js application, but you can create already first articles. So let's set up something for them. First of all, I just create a folder because I would love to keep all my articles in the same folder. So articles, and let's set that the content type inside this article will be article. Makes sense. So I have articles here. Let's create the first article. And my first article, that's the typical name of the first article. And I'm going to just create it. So the first thing is we didn't create any like rendering in any page in the Next.js for that. So we don't see, and we will just get error for that part. So let's hide this and focus on the content and create articles. So let's create a Next.js. It's awesome, and add there like some intro. Add here that I'm the author, which I'm not the author. I just copy paste some text from the Next.js, and then I here would go like headline and do all the text and the whole topic, whatever. So save it, and let's go back and create the second article. So let's duplicate this, copy. Let's say second. Call it like story block. Duplicate. On do one last change, that I will disable the visual composer, that I don't have to hide always those previews. So I don't see now the visual preview right now. And let's add Storyblog is cool. Yeah. And Dominic will be the author. And let's create one more article and copy Athens. Sorry. VueJS Athens box. Yeah, save. So cool. So right now I created 3 articles. I can go like very quickly to the home. And as you can see on the home and the localhost home, I don't see those articles. I said like I will be like creating a component feature which will be featuring articles. So let's add a new block. But I don't have that block. So I didn't create it yet. So there will be like multiple ways to create it, but I would love to go to components and create that featured articles block. So it will be like featured articles where I could using the handpicked articles. So create new ones. And yeah, I will be like choosing some articles. So call it articles, the field, makes sense. And as a type, I'm going to choose a blocks. Multi-option. I'm somewhere with my head right now. But as source, I am going to choose different stories. And in this case, I'm going to choose those stories from the articles folder. So I choose like, okay, this will be a multi-option. So I can choose a multiple articles as featured articles. I can choose from another stories already created in Storyblock, and the folder of origin is articles in this case. So let's save it. And what is cool is like I can use it right now. So I can go to content, I can go to homepage, I can add block, and I can see here that it's featured articles already here. So the featured articles are here, and I can choose my articles, all 3. I can save them. I can go even publish. I can check the API if sending it, and it's here on the bottom is this object, which is like component type featured articles, and there are 3 UIDs of the 3 articles I just chose. Okay, but we need to fix that we don't see any preview for that. So let's jump back to the Next.js and create very quickly a featured articles component. So close this, go to featured articles, as I already prepared that stuff, and just uncomment this code. So first of all, as you can see here, I'm just going to render some headline, which is block.title, and I didn't create that in the component, so I have to fix this in story block. And then I am rendering here the li, so under the list of articles. An article teaser is basically expecting some article content. So if I go to article teaser, article teaser, which is here, then as you can see here, I'm doing nothing else as just rendering like h2 as a title, then the paragraph with some styling as an intro, and another paragraph which will be the author in italic, and doing some styling like shadow as effect. And the content of the article I am expecting as article content props. In the featured articles, as you can see, I am sending the props and I'm sending the article.content. And let's see if something is happening right now. So, let's go to component.json and also register those 2. So ready this quickly, save it. Let's see if everything built. Everything built. So, and we see the outline here. And even the Next.js know that here should be a featured article, but something is wrong. And what is wrong is that, first of all, let's fix the title fix. So let's define schema here. So this is like a quick way to define the schema. And here the featured articles and define schema. The title, I like the order. Keep the order. And the text is OK. So save, cancel, and fill the title. So featured articles. So it's featured, right? It's here. And why we don't see any preview, so any teasers. And why we don't see the teasers is like, if you remember in the JSON, and I scroll down, we have only the UIDs. We didn't load the content of those articles, which are in the different folder. So we need to load that content. There is also multiple ways how to do it, like using the, but I'm going to use a fetch in index page in Next. I'm going to load it into the Vuex, so maybe Daniel then can say more or how could be done a little bit better. So as you can see here in Next.js, there is a fetch function, which basically do very easy thing. So I have hide the left side. It's going to check if I already loaded my my articles, and if I didn't load the articles, it's going to ask Storybook API for stories that are started with the articles or are inside the article folder in the draft version. And we are going to right now for this tutorial we are loading all of them. Just don't make it like complicated right now. It's of course it's like not sending all of them. It's I forgot like those numbers. So whatever. Sorry, I lose myself. So then we are going to save those articles in the store. So we are going to set articles commit, and then we are going to set that we loaded them. So the store looks very easy. If I open the store very quickly, which is doing nothing else, there are an empty array of articles, and if it's loaded, and 2 mutations. The whole store, nothing else, nothing more. So I can hide the index also. And the thing I need to explain is that in the feature articles, I'm loading the computed data, and this is basically sorted articles which load those articles from the store. But we are filtering them using the UIDs we are sending in the JSON and asking only for those, or filtering only those which are which UIDs are included in the JSON. and we are turning them. So let's save this and let's see. And it's working. You can see here, even the live update should work. So if I just click here, then I have nothing. And now I have all of them. And I can save. And it's working. This is great. There's some there's some effect. And I can even reorder, which is like cool. But there's one catch. It didn't reorder it, as you can see. And it even didn't reorder it after the save. And the problem why they're not reordering is kind of also why I like so much the Next.js is that I reordered my data in the JSON. So the UIDs here in the JSON, they change the order. And we know the order, but we didn't define the order function in the Next.js. And to do that is basically a question of 3 lines of code, or even less. In this case, it's 3 lines of code, where we're just defining a sort function for our order, for our store, and we loaded those articles. We also do compares the position of the UIDs here, and basically sort them in the right order. So if I save this right now, and now, yes, hopefully, yeah, it's already reordered. So if I move, then you should see that Storyblok is cool should now move on the last place. And this way you can just do whatever you want. It's like a featured article, so you can reorder them and make your own preferences, what should be first and what should be last. And that's why I like that this approach with visual preview, which is possible really only with the modern frameworks as the Next.js. And this is what makes Next.js so powerful for future static side rendering, static side generation, and the gem stack. And then you can think okay, this is component approach, but let's say you want to have a different component where you don't want to use a featured articles, but you would like to feature only the Next.js articles. So we just go this next articles, and then okay, this is the Athens, and this is the first article, so I don't need them. Then I can save it. Okay, it's this is a little bit strange, so let's put the teaser between. We can then preview. It's working. Okay, I didn't design it for the mobile, so it's that's not so cool. I can save it. And right now, what would be the next step is basically to hit a publish button and have a setup webhook, and then the webhook would deploy or trigger the deployment process on the Netlify or Verso platform, or AWS, or wherever you want to host the Next.js project. And then you will run Next generate, and the whole project will be deployed. And this is where I would stop, because I could go much deeper and talk about a lot of stuff here, but it's really what I want to show with the Next.js and what is possible. And the next step, if you liked it, and if you are really curious about what you can do, is basically go to this link, and there's a description or explained a very long article how to build a multi-language website, basically as this one, with the features and with another features, with using also other fields types, etc., etc., etc. So, and that's all. If you have any question, then I'm open. I'm happy to answer any of them. And if you have the questions later, then ask me on the Twitter using the DM. Thank you very much.
Whoa, amazing, wonderful speech, man. It was really
fast. How long?
Wow, we have a few questions here.
Yeah, so, go. Let me ask.
Okay, so we have Father Makis. He's asking, can I use image with multiple sizes?
Of course. I mean, there's multiple approaches. So we have our own image service. So you can upload one image and do the image service or asset service with also not so powerful as Cloudinary, but basically you can also even integrate the Cloudinary, which is already in the application here. You will just install the Cloudinary app, which I don't know where is it, whatever. And then you have an image service where you can say okay, give me image of this and this size, and I should do this. Sorry, image service. So, or what kind of what kind of format do you want, or if you want to have some filters or whatever. So it's I mean, it's very powerful kind of. It's of course you can even do much more stuff with Cloudinary, but as I could say that you will have to able like do that also. What else? Yeah, focus point, and that's the images. I can continue.
Wow, nice. He also asking, sorry, can I use a CDN for them?
Yes, I mean CDN is used also on our side. So there's like with CDN you don't have to like set up anything from your side if you go for Jamstack and Next.js and let's say a Versa or Netlify, because both of them like Versa and Netlify they have own CDN. Then on our side is CDN setup, which I can give you some numbers here and technical limits if I'm correct. But there is a draft version. There, if you go for publish, then it's take a little bit more time. But with the trigger, of course, there. And what else? Yeah, that's it.
Nice.
You can implement it yourself. Yeah.
Okay. Also, can I have different user permissions, author, editor, etc.?
Yes, you can. I have a different. This is already one different talk I have. You have a whole topic on the content authoring, and we have like the basic workflows which are included like also in the free plan, and like where's like a lot of stuff is in the free plan. Then you have a custom workflows where you can even build your own custom workflows and like set up the stuff like this workflow stage can follow only after this workflow stage. Only these peoples with this role can put or like set this workflow stage. And this is like here, like if I go to content, then here the status, it's like you can change the workflow stage right now. This is just the free version. So go for drafting, reviewing, ready to push, or you can assign a different role or go for a different roles. But here right now, I don't have a roles, because if I will go back settings and go for your users, you can create a new role. I don't know if it's allowed. And in the role, you can set up like stuff like what fields you can even see, if you can edit them. So basically here, like I can go like, okay, you are, I'm not sure, like this is the whitelist. So I can see the articles and I cannot see other stories. Then also on the component level, so I can like say like, hey, you are not allowed to do something like, see, you will not see the article prose, or you are not allowed to see the article title. And also like same for other sources or the assets where for now is just like saying like, okay, you cannot edit this folder in other assets. Like this is here where I don't have any images. But if I would go back and go for, let's say this, demo, give me a second, Next.js demo. And here are the assets. You see this is basically image where I could go like, okay, what is my alt tag on the image, and this is my focus point, and then what is the copyright, and this all you would get in the JSON, of course. So there's multiple stuff you can do also with the assets and on the roles, etc.
Wonderful, wonderful, nice. So if there are any other questions, you can reach Samuel on the social medias, right?
Yeah, of course, definitely. Sorry, I'm looking on the let's say because my camera is here.
Thank you very much, Samuel. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So this is it. We've reached the end of our event. It was an amazing event. I hope you had a great time. I hope that you learned something new today or tonight. I hope you heard something that is going to challenge you. If you haven't worked with Vue before, I hope you saw something interesting that will trigger you to test it out. And I would like to thank all the attendees for joining us, for supporting us. Also, the speakers, Daniel and Sam, I think that they did a great job. Make sure you follow them on Twitter or LinkedIn or other social medias. Ask them questions. And also, I would like to thank all of the people who really helped us out, who work behind the scenes and help us to set up the whole thing. So again, thank you, Samuel. Where is Daniel? Daniel will join us later. Oh, here he is. Daniel, thank you so much for tonight. It was amazing.
It's been such a pleasure.
Really appreciated your volunteering, guys. So I'm presenting to you the other co-organizer of the meetup. So where are they? We have Emma.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your presentations. That was great.
Hello, thank you all.
Thanks very much.
Then is Dimitris Zotos.
Hi guys, thank you very much for the presentation. That was awesome.
I think we missed two organizers. Fotis, Marios. Guys, don't be shy. Come out. Okay, so thank you for your attention. Also, thank you for being here. Take care and stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.
Same to you. Bye.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
all.